Dark Souls is peak. It felt so good to be back in Lordran, golf-swinging hollows with a Zweihander so hard you could hear it from Drangleic. That sword is hardly the only thing ultra great. We've got 26 bosses with quality aged like fine wine, but can the same be said for their difficulty? We'll find out today in our continued revisit of the Souls series. This is the Dark Souls bosses ranked from easiest to hardest. Number 26, Pinwheel. Death, taxes, and a gang of pinwheels sucking asses. You'll have a harder time fighting through the bone wheel skeleton blender than you will trouncing this troll. What he'd like to do is teleport around, create copies, who can pepper you with magic from all angles until you're seasoned to death. The unfortunate reality for Pinwheel is that this takes time, something a striking dummy that barely registers as a speed bump can hardly afford. Maybe Pinwheel's paltry HP can be explained by the developers intending for you to descend into the catacombs early, but if that's the case, it's hard to explain why enemies outside are scaled well above anything you encounter until at least the mid-game. No, I think it's far easier to dismiss Pinwheel's design as a glass cannon, hold the cannon. Or rather, hand it over. You see, these days when I replay Souls games, I like to try new builds, and see how fast I can scale them to endgame levels with my routing knowledge of the game. This time I chose the Zweihander. Yeah, I know, I'm late to the strength party, but I might be converted for good after seeing this bad boy in action. I realize this might seem like a tangent, but bear with me. It'll explain why Taurus Demon ranks as my second easiest boss. When I push for this scaling rush in these runs, my goal is to kill as few bosses as possible along the way, so that once I'm done, I get the pleasure of testing my build in an improvised boss rush. It just so happens the Master Key gives you access to Andre's back door, skipping Taurus Demon entirely. That's infinite Titanite shards for +5. Take that invaluable lockpick to Blighttown to farm large Titanite from the leeches. Now go to New Londo Ruins, bonk Ingward for his key to draining the water, and farm Dark Race for chunks and grab the very large ember. Grab the basement key, backtrack into Lower Undead Burg from the underside of the bridge, and head to the depths for the large ember. This gives you a +14 weapon to kill Stray Demon with for +15. That's a grand total of 3 bosses killed to do so: Asylum, Stray, and Capra Demon, which left me with a boss rush of 23 to go. Taurus Demon can barely withstand a base dagger with a sprinkle of lightning resin from the Berg chest. Imagine how that went with a fully upgraded Zweihander. This is the reality of returning to these games. Unless you enforce a strict punishment-only challenge run, you can embrace mild difficulty farming for a few hours to make boss slaying the sole focus of the remainder of your run. And like Pinwheel, Taurus Demon is solely glass, and I'm now the cannon. Number 24, Iron Golem. The question now becomes who can withstand a Zweihander on full blast? It certainly won't be this bloated bucket of iron that buckled faster than his towering Boletarian cousin. It's like the wide swings were made to double chunk the ankles, making him plunge at record speed. The best defense is an offense that prevents him from snatching you and sending you to meet Manus earlier than intended. That said, it isn't difficult to dodge whatever offense he can muster before he starts wobbling. His plummet can be seen as a metaphor for his rank, not that Iron Golem was ever a chart topper. Number 23, Gaping Dragon. At least I remembered Iron Golem. I can't say the same for Gaping Dragon. I know, how could I forget a smile that breathtaking? Well, I hardly broke a sweat sundering it from existence well past my whirlwind tour of Blighttown via the Master Key. I only needed to avoid a single charge before it stopped dead in its tracks. With no reason to cull it other than the sake of completion, leaving it as an endgame dessert is a treat you can claim with ease. The biggest victim of the base cannon is a boss most players would rank quite a lot higher. The Bell Gargoyles are not designed with hefty damage in mind. They must be balanced for new players who don't even know what a Titanite shard is. So when my saddlebags are bursting with them, the ensuing damage makes this hardly a bigger roadblock than the 2-hit Taurus. All it took was 2 dodges to get in position for the sweep. In their defense, that's more than the 1 each it took for Gaping Dragon and Iron Golem. Due credit to the Gargoyles even if their ambush can't withstand a dash of game knowledge. Number 21, Dark Sun Gwendolyn. Lace up your Nikes for Gwendolyn's Hallway Express. This is a test of patience more than dexterity. Grow old behind pillars as he spams pellets, I-frame the soul arrows, and bum rush the real ones at an angle to close the gap. The trick is to get as close as possible during the magic attacks, but not too close, as it'll force a teleport. When in this sweet spot, you wait for arrows and then dash in for an easy punish. This is a very consistent strategy, but requires you not to lose your mind if he becomes an orb turret. So while mechanically he's no harder than the rest of the bottom dwellers, exercising restraint for my itchy R2 finger is the most I've been taxed thus far. Number 20, Moonlight Butterfly. If Gwendolyn is like a quicksand in a moving walkway, Moonlight Butterfly feels like a balloon floating out of your reach. It's bound to land eventually, but your hopes and dreams will be well and dead before that happens. This bridge is where joy goes to die. The only way to occupy your time as a melee build is spamming circle to easily evade its spells. They do kinda hurt if you get hit, not that you'll have any problem chugging your way through any mistakes. That's the bar we're going for here. Spells that tickle and a heavy dose of boredom causing mental duress. Number 19, Asylum Demon. This is the gatekeeper of the tutorial, something any Souls veteran should be well equipped to overcome. Assuming you chose the Thief for the built-in master key, black firebombs make a great way to roast it with a little care for timing, aim, and a dodge. Otherwise, collect your tools, dropkick its face, and smack its butt for a free win. Bog standard stuff. Only notable things working in its favor are good reach and rotating well with its hits, but mild repositioning to maintain advantage is child's play after withstanding the heights of FromSoft's work. Now let's do it again, but it's on fire, yay! Oh no! Anyways, sure it adds in some spice with AoE after effects on some attacks, but as long as you position away from its front, as you likely are anyway, they are irrelevant. Higher damage output and potential to get caught out by said explosions earns it a higher spot by a smidge. Number 17, Crossbreed Priscilla. Another punching bag with a side of sorrow. Fighting Crossbreed Priscilla is a bad match for the Zweihander's heavy swings, as her invisibility is removed upon hit. In previous runs with smaller weapons, I struggled to pinpoint her exact location even with the footsteps. With such a wide arc, I went horizontally ham for easy discovery and a swift defeat ensued. At least she has some misdirection to add guesswork and bleed build up to punish consecutive mistakes. Number 16, Ceaseless Discharge. Discharge, on the other hand, can't help but blow his load all at once. This can work to your advantage as it whiffs and leaves its limbs exposed for a considerable duration. Where it gets spicy is if it does connect, that all-in blast was no exaggeration. He absolutely chunks even the thickest HP bars. Still, this was the only hit that connected out of an otherwise easy victory, and that's facing him the hard way. You can instead kite him all the way to the entrance, where a scripted attack leaves a special limb exposed that one-shots him if dislodged. This is such a strange encounter. Whether explosively going in your favor or his, you can count on it ending quickly. The vast majority of the time, the win falls in your lap. Number 15, Centipede Demon. This guy used to give me fits. Bro camped out of my melee reach and did slams just fast enough that I could never punish. Either I got good or the Zweihander is goated. It's definitely the Zweihander. Unparalleled range amputated that centipede almost instantly, rewarding me with a closer engagement and a lava safety helmet in case I wanted to take it elsewhere. Being able to dodge and effectively counter made this fight so much easier. Bringing it in close makes it far less of an endurance threat, but don't count out its ability to bump you into the lava for a cheeky death. Number 14, Gravelord Nito. The only thing more dangerous than lava? A pit of endlessly respawning skeletons. That is, unless you came equipped like me to come on and slam with the Divine. Such an infusion is skeleton kryptonite, allowing you to permanently kill them. What used to be a chaotic cyclone of bones being blasted alongside my Estus reserves became a tranquil battle against a surprisingly docile Great Lord. Sure, that AoE is meaty, but it's far easier to outrange when you aren't being stagger locked by his band of merry monsters. It does of course take some effort to eliminate them all, but Nito's Scream and Spike are the only threats from the boss himself since he's so slow. Certainly more threat than anything thus far, but a little preparation goes a long way to making this more manageable. Number 13, Chaos Witch Quelaag. Quelaag was the first early game boss that didn't immediately crumble under the weight of a plus 15 Zweihander. She has a respectable amount of HP, good reach with large hitboxes, persistent lava to throw off positioning, and a devastating explosive AoE to force you to moderate your greed. Most of that didn't come into play too hard before I squashed her like a bug, but enough of it showed up to ascend well beyond those crushed under the weight of my power scaling. Number 12, Gwyn, Lord of Cinder. Gwyn, the man to bring in a golden age of fire, leaping with all his might, versus a wrinkled jelly bean swinging his shield. Who would win? To his credit, there's a reason parrying is the preferred method. Both Gwyn's attack and closing speeds are absurd. By Dark Souls standards, the reprieve he offers is minuscule when he starts weaving combos. The problem is you don't even have to be great at parrying to pull it off. After the scripted opener, I whiffed my first parry. And you know what I did? Swang the shield again, and there it is. It would be disappointing if it didn't feel so badass. Number 11, Four Kings. Should be called the Three Kings. Where's my refund for the fourth that never appeared? This DPS rush got destroyed. If you keep hitting the spot where a king dies, you score extra damage, outdoing the need for a final round. If you can withstand a few slices and a magic boomerang, you'll find plenty of windows to spam attacks and outscale the potential gank. Difficulty here is based on your build, but I find it hard to believe anyone not doing a challenge run can't delete them with little consequence in new game, provided you can dodge or even tank their attacks. It's a viable strat. Wear Havels and heal through whatever damage you take while spamming attacks. As long as your weapon and flask are upgraded enough, you'll pull it off. Now if we were considering high new game cycles, I have to imagine this shoots up near the top of the list. But even I am not masochistic enough to fall into that abyss. Number 10, Stray Demon. Instead, allow me to plunge into the demon's trap. It may seem strange to rank Asylum and Fire Sage demons one after the other, half a dozen spots below this, but there's two reasons. For one, the Forced Descent puts you on your back heel instantly. It takes enough health that another attack from Stray will be deadly, requiring you to either heal or have the confidence of Geno Machina. The second reason is how cramped the arena feels compared to the arena above, and especially Fire Sage. Maybe it's a placebo, but the pile of rubble and frontal explosions make me feel far more boxed in down here. The reason it's not topping any charts is ultimately it still is the exact same thing as Fire Sage. If you can rally the initial ambush, you're golden. It may require more awareness to not back yourself into a corner, but it's easier than you'd expect thanks to how easy it is to strafe a demon's kit in general. Number 9, Sif the Great Grey Wolf. Oh, that's one happy boy. This is what we must feel like to bosses, running and jumping all over the place, locking in only to get big swings off. Sif makes it look easy, with nimble movements despite carrying a gargantuan greatsword. Since Sif does all the work, I just wait and respond to what attacks come my way. Thanks to the aforementioned speed and massive attack radius, it's more demanding than I remember. Whiffing dodges puts out a hearty amount of damage, and Sif takes a decent amount of punishment to take down. That said, I leave it for the endgame since I like getting the unique cutscene from saving the pup in the DLC. The real difficulty here is seeing the poor baby limp in the final moments, only meaning to stop you from befalling the same fate as Artorias. Heartbreaking without a doubt, but by no means more than an average difficulty affair. Number 8, Sanctuary Guardian. Like the Great Grey Wolf, this Chimera is difficult to pin down. There's some favorable attacks like the Wave and Dive that you can evade and punish. For every one of those tenfold, you get trolled by retreating lightning blasts you're forced to defend. Yet these don't do enough damage to outscale healing from a fully kindled bonfire. Wait for it to get in close, fend off whatever melee combos it unleashes, then dish out your own punishment in return. Assuming you leave the DLC until you're reasonably leveled, it shouldn't be more than a small hiccup on your path to Elysia. Number 7, Seath the Scaleless. Seath makes up for being a humongous target with a wide variety of attacks to look out for. You need to watch his tails, hands, and head to monitor the next attack. From melee blows to tail slams to curse breath leaving the floor riddled with spikes, deliberate positioning goes a long way to ensuring you can safely punish this offense. I found that waiting around in mid-range baited a lot more melee attacks I could evade inward and counter. Stepping back afterward to leave a moderate gap made it easier to safely backstep any crystal spam. I will admit though, killing him first attempt is a huge boon, thanks to starting with the Immortality Crystal right behind you, then forcing him to make his way to you. When you retry, you have to sprint all the way around him to the crystal, then turn around to see that you've already been cornered. With more space to operate, baiting favorable attacks and punishing in kind made this easier than I anticipated, albeit with deliberate effort that is more taxing than anything thus far. Number 6, Knight Artorias. Artorias was once one of the series' hardest challenges for me. His elevated aggression with long attack animations, smaller downtime in the gaps between, and considerable damage when caught made a loop where I felt unable to breathe. These days, however, the Fallen Knight feels downright crotchety compared to the speed demons in the later half of the series. In spite of slower speed for the player to match, it's easy to trade with high HP, a little poise, and healing reserves to recover. Using knowledge of his HP threshold for buffing, you can withhold stamina and unleash the true power of a strength build to stagger him out of it. That's a slam dunk in two ways. You get free damage and prevent his buff. That said, he doesn't stagger often even using a heavy weapon, so you'll need to deal with constant pressure no matter where you are in the arena. His ability to gap close on a dime is legendary, with attack openings being earned through adept dodge timing and thoughtful positioning. There are still flashes of what makes Artorias tough in there, but years of experience in faster FromSoft environments has made him fall behind the curve. Number 5, Capra Demon. What will never age is the absolute clusterfuck that is 2 dogs and a speed demon in a shoebox arena. Even being aware of what's coming, my entrance was a swing and a miss, getting blasted for my failure. I ejected to the staircase for emergency recovery and kiting, and then hit a twofer. Do the drop, then unleash the power within to quickly end Capra. Granted, this is only with a +5 weapon. If you're doing a build that doesn't require the large ember, screw this. Wait until your twinkling weapon or demon titanite is on full blast, and come back to one-tap him. Capra himself isn't too difficult to dodge or counter, it's the dogs in tight space that make it a nightmare. The elevation of the stairs is a godsend for momentary relief, and with a little bit of power at your side, that's all you need to even the odds. Number 4, Manus, Father of the Abyss. Darkness Daddy manages to enforce the pressure of Capra and his doggos all within a single entity. He attacks with great range and speed, mixing tricky delays and subtle variants on his combos to throw off your timing. If they land, they deal some of the heaviest damage in the game. This sets you in a bad loop of healing, get caught again, keep healing, and so on until you died as inevitable. Yet there are moments of reprieve if you know where to find them. The random roars are one such opportunity, though that's not very reliable. The better gap comes through dodging his wombo combo. When he screams and rears backward, get out of dodge quickly. If you do, he unleashes the full attack, giving you ages to heal, buff, even take a nap. If you whiff, he'll juggle you for the full onslaught, and it hurts. As the battle rages on, healing and attack animations become even more costly as he employs dark magic. If you get caught as he readies the spray, it's a nigh guaranteed one-shot. If you catch on, however, this is a great time to juke and punish. This is the battle in a nutshell. It's a tit-for-tat test of your recognition, timing, and employing the correct counter for each situation. Doing so is difficult to a degree that skyrockets well beyond anything thus far. Number 3, Black Dragon Calamine. The Calamity Dragon is every bit as tough as I remember. Massive hitboxes with unparalleled range, tight timing demands to evade and counter as a result, matched with the highest damage output in the game. The melee blows are something to fear, yet it's the variety of flame attacks that roast my healing reserves dry. The fly up and breathe down attack, for example, requires immediate reaction to avoid. If you're caught in an animation, say goodbye to half your health. The way Calamite blends these flame breaths into repositions and blunt offense demands split-second understanding of each situation, a tall order against a beast with his speed and size. And if you get the Calamity suck, forget about it. Double damage taken is the last thing you need against this guy. The only thing that could possibly be worse than Calamite are 2 Calamites. That's essentially what Ornstein and Smo feel like, a tandem embodying the dragon's ferocity. I remember this fight fondly, like all of you, and anticipated another beautiful tit-for-tat. Nah, if anything, this trumps Capra's chaos. I went mad trying to find openings with a slow weapon. You gotta do laps around using pillars to split them as best you can, but good luck not getting chunked somehow and using those minuscule openings you find for healing instead. It is an endurance sprint of dwindling resources and sanity, praying I can get a few strikes in against Ornstein to enrage Smo. It didn't help that Ornstein chose his buggy dash opener that gets stuck on every pebble in the arena, throwing off your dodges, nor the oaf outside the fog who slapped me through it. At least the second half of Super Smo was miles more manageable. Between staggers with the Zweihammer and not getting skewered by Ornstein every few seconds, it was a swift end. The difficulty in this battle is having patience and recognition to identify openings, and the defensive skills to survive long enough to create them. All it takes is a handful of blows to even the odds, with a duo's perfect balance of covering all ranges, multi-layered attack density, and attack radius to cover nearly every opening, makes that one of the tallest orders in Dark Souls. But there's one more boss that rises above even that, as it sweeps you well into hell. Number 1, the Bed of Chaos. Dark Souls combat difficulty is fleeting, Miyazaki's puzzles are forever. The beginning really isn't that bad. The sweep hit detection is spotty to say the least, but at least the floor is stable. Now you could backtrack to the center amidst crumbling traps, but I thought myself something of a trickster. I'd quit out, knowing you'd return to the boss fog. Bed of Chaos is unique in that you get a checkpoint every time you bust its balls, so leaving the arena is no problem. Doing this cuts out half the necessary runtime with no downside. As I entered the arena, my smug smile would last about 10 seconds before I was swiftly dunked into the first hole that appeared. I just know somewhere out there Miyazaki uttered the words, "skill issue," with a shit-eating grin of his own. I managed to get the second just fine, and I even got the mid-jump first try despite a brief stint as a ping pong ball. Then I got Firestorm. What on earth is that damage? Where was my counterplay there, huh? I guess I should have blocked being swallowed by hellfire? That's a perfect descriptor for what this fight always feels like. Being consumed by flames of hatred that always shave at least a few lives off of me. In fact, this was tied for the boss I died the most to in this run. It's what I said at the outset. Combat difficulty is fleeting, getting swept into the bed of bullshit's holes is forever. No matter how good I get at these games, I will never be able to perfectly time and predict what this witch is gonna do. Game knowledge and experience amounts to naught against this eternal fun vacuum. It may suck, but it did it all the way to the top. An unconventional choice perhaps. So far we're 2 for 2 on weird puzzle designs taking the top spot in these games. Next time we'll see if Dark Souls 2 can break that trend, perhaps with a certain fuming knight. Until then, leave a like if you enjoyed the video, be sure to subscribe, and send your Beta Chaos fan mail in the comments below. I'll see y'all in the next one.